What we're going to do today is we're going to learn to draw diagrams that help us locate and describe using the SALT method the characteristics of an image created by a lens. And we're going to start off using converging lenses. Converging lenses, also referred to as convex lenses, cause light to come together or bend in, thus the converging. We're actually going to trace three beams of light. So we're going to learn what those three beams of light are in this particular lesson. And the reason we're going to trace these three beams is if we just trace two beams of light and they cross somewhere, that could be a coincidence. Three and they all cross at the same place, it's definitely not a coincidence. Now, when light actually goes through a lens, millions of beams of light go through it and millions of beams of light cross on the other side. It's just we don't want to trace millions of beams of light. And therefore, we're only going to pick three. And we've picked three very specific ones that are easy to draw. That's why we chose them. So we're going to start off by drawing our first one. And our first beam of light will go through the top of the object. And this arrow represents the object. This is basically like if you were using a magnifying glass, it would be the thing you're trying to look at. If you were using a microscope, it would be the slide under the microscope. There's two focal points marked, one on either side, and that's because you can look through a lens from either direction because it's made out of clear glass. And there's a lens down the middle, and in this case, it's a converging lens, and I can tell because it's pointy at the ends, which means the ends are thinner than the middle. And there's also the optical center being the very center of the lens. That's what all these markings are. Now, my first beam of light is going to go through the top of the object, straight into the lens, and then bend so it goes through the focal point. Now, we always put everything through the top of the object because it will show me where the top of the image is when they cross. And that's all I really need to know is where's the top of the image. And that will let me figure out everything else. So straight into the lens and then down through the focal point. Now, when you do this, you're going to use a ruler for your diagram and make your lines nice and long. So that's rule number one. Rule number two. Rule number two, we're going to go through the object. We're going to go through the top of the object again. We're going to go this time through the secondary focal point, so F prime. So top of the object through the secondary focal point. So make sure you go right through the middle of that dot as nicely as you can, and then it will bend so it goes straight out. So it will go straight out afterwards. So it will be nice and parallel with this line I've made. That's why I made this line. It's called the principal axis. That allows us to make sure that these are parallel to each other. Just makes it a little easier. So that's rule number two. Rule number three, the third line we're going to draw is this one. The third line is right through the optical center. So you're going to go right through the optical center from the top of the object right through the optical center. Now, it doesn't bend at all because the optical center, how it works is the light hits both sides of the lens right at 90 degrees, right straight on in, so that it actually doesn't bend at all. This means it goes straight through, passes right through the middle. So these are our three lines. So if you tune into one of the other videos, I will show you how to put all three of these lines on the same diagram in order to determine where an object's image is and its characteristics.